What do you get when you mix boundless energy,
rebellious charm, a billion-dollar empire,
and a guy who once tried to fly around the world in a hot air balloon?
You get Sir Richard Branson, billionaire, daredevil, entrepreneur.
and the man who turned being a rebel into a business strategy. He built a global empire called Virgin, but before he could soar into space, he had to dodge bankruptcy, lawsuits, disasters, and even death. From signing punk rock bands to selling tickets to the edge of space, Branson's life is a masterclass in risk, wit, and relentless ambition. Today, we dive into the wild, risky, hilarious, and surprisingly human story of Sir Richard Branson, as told in his own words. In Losing My Virginity, Chapter 1, The First Step. 1960s, 1970s. Richard Branson didn't follow rules. He broke them. Early, often, and with style. In the late 1960s, at just 16 years old, he launched a magazine called Student, interviewing celebrities and advocating for social change. The first issue brought in $8,000 in ad revenue, enough to convince Branson to leave school and go all in. My parents didn't panic when I dropped out, he wrote. They just asked what I planned to do next. In 1969, that next move became a mail-order record business. Working from a church crypt, Branson sold discounted records under a cheeky name that reflected his team's inexperience, Virgin. By 1972, Virgin opened its first record store, then quickly launched a label, Virgin Records. Its first big hit, Tubular Bells by Mike Oldfield, selling over 5 million copies and making Branson his first million. But it wasn't just the music that made Virgin different, it was the attitude. Branson didn't shy away from controversial artists. He signed the Sex Pistols when no one else would touch them. His label went on to include legends like the Rolling Stones, Ozzy Osbourne, and more. Virgin became punk rock's home, and Branson, he became the corporate rebel with a cause.
When I started my first business, I didn't have any money, so I had to sell advertising in advance for the magazine that I put out. So then when I started a mail-order record company, I would get the money in, and then I'd go and buy the records, and then I'd send them out to people. So it's not easy, but sometimes you can actually start a business getting the cash up front and then pay the bills with that cash.
Chapter 2, Sky High Ambitions, 1980s. Virgin expanded into books, video, and even nightclubs. By 1984, Branson wanted to do something really crazy, start an airline. Why? Because his flight to the Caribbean was cancelled, and he thought he could do better. So he leased a second-hand 747 and launched Virgin Atlantic. With massage chairs, seat-back videos, and free ice cream, the airline quickly built a cult following. But British Airways wasn't amused. They launched a full-on smear campaign, hacking Virgin's systems and trying to poach customers. Branson fought back in court. He won the lawsuit, along with $945,000 in damages and something even more important, credibility. Virgin Atlantic survived, and Branson cemented his image as the David taking on Goliath.
That's how I've said about it at Virgin. I've never really thought of myself as being a businessman. I just look at, I hated flying on other people's airlines, so I started an airline. I wanted to get a piece of music out, and the record companies wouldn't put it out, so I started a record company. So just trying to do something for that sort of reason is often, I think, the best way of creating a business.
Chapter 3, Risk, Reinvention, and the Billion-Dollar Bet, 1990s. The 90s were both brutal and brilliant. In 1992, Branson made one of the toughest decisions of his life, selling Virgin Records for $1 billion, just to keep Virgin Atlantic flying. He was heartbroken. He cried after the sale, but he didn't stop. In 1996, he launched Virgin Trains. He started looking beyond Earth. He got knighted in 2000, and Time magazine named him one of the 100 most influential people in the world in 2007. His empire now included more than 50 companies, from fitness clubs to radio stations, mobile phones to nightclubs, and even a Formula One team. Branson proved over and over again that a lack of experience never stopped a determined entrepreneur. Screw it, let's do it wasn't a slogan, it was a lifestyle. In 2004, Branson looked to the stars and launched Virgin Galactic, a space tourism company with a vision of making space travel accessible to ordinary people. Well, rich ordinary people. There were setbacks, including a tragic crash in 2014, but Branson pushed forward. In July 2021, aboard the VSS Unity, he became one of the first civilians to reach space minus 53.5 miles above Earth. Virgin Galactic continued to make history. First public ticket sales opened in 2022 at $450,000 per seat. First tourist spaceflight launched in 2023. By January 2024, the company had completed 11 spaceflights, but not everything in orbit stayed afloat. Virgin Orbit, the satellite division, shut down in 2023, proving even billionaires can't win them all. Chapter 5. The man behind the brand. So who is Richard Branson? He's a prankster who once wore a wedding dress to promote his bridal store.
A boss who values his employees so much he was voted
The UK's dream boss in a national poll.
A philanthropist who founded Virgin Unite to fight global issues like HIV, AIDS and climate change, and a mentor who launched the Branson Center of Entrepreneurship to support rising innovators around the world. In his autobiography, Losing My Virginity, Branson shares stories of near-death experiences, crashing balloons, escaping fires, and dodging sharks. He's constantly risking comfort in pursuit of adventure. My interest in life comes from setting myself huge, apparently unachievable challenges and trying to rise above them.
even his private island, Necker Island,
which he bought for just $180,000 in 1979, became a symbol of paradise built from persistence. Chapter 6. The bottom line. As of October 2024, Sir Richard Branson's net worth is $2.7 billion. He's built and lost companies across more than 40 industries. He's flown, floated, sailed, and rocketed his way into global pop culture. But the real secret to his success, Branson says, it's a mix of luck, speed, boldness, and knowing when to take the leap, even if you don't know how to land. Richard Branson has become a global icon through his ventures in various fields. He attributes his success to a combination of luck, speed, boldness, and the willingness to take risks, even without knowing the exact outcome. Branson's approach goes beyond business. It's a philosophy that success can be enjoyable, courageous, and meaningful. He believes that learning comes from action and failure, not just following rules. His message is clear: fall, fly, fail, and start again. If a dyslexic teenager working in a church basement can create a space company, the only real limit is how big you are willing to dream. Like, subscribe, and share your favorite Richard Branson quote or moment below. Remember, screw it, let's do it.